Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Victoria Valenzuela. Thank you for joining us. Cronkite News is committed to covering sustainability news across the state. Tonight, a look back on stories including how sheep are helping one solar energy plant, as well as how the state is protecting native fish.
A solar farm in Wilcox is using a unique sustainable system on 4 legs to mow their lawns. I spoke with Tucson Electric Power, who buys the energy from the Red Horse Solar and Wind Project, and a farmer who helps keep the environment surrounding the panels contained. Hidden among these 250,000 solar modules stretching across the desert in Wilcox are dozens of sheep.
What we hear is that the sheep are cute, and they're cute. And they keep the lights on, so they're sort of like, partners that get paid in shrubbery.
And companies like Tucson Electric Power buys the energy from the farm.
Solar power is great in many ways. It's good for the environment. The costs of installing and delivering solar power is coming down all the time. And one of the things that we look for are ways to make solar energy more reliable.
According to Tucson Electric Power, the solar field can provide them with up to 71 megawatts of clean power, and 1 megawatt can provide power for 211 homes for a year. While the panels are collecting the sun's energy, on average 200 sheep mow the grass below the panels. Rusty Koch is a 6th-generation Arizonan rancher and has rented the sheep out to the solar field for close to 2 years.
Well, sheep, because they don't eat wires like goats. They're small enough, like when the panels, when they oscillate and they're real low on the ground, you can't really run cattle out here to keep them down.
If the sheep weren't here, the grass would be growing to about this height, which would create a problem for the solar panels because the solar panels are moving in order to capture the sun. And if the grass is too tall, then they only collect about half of the energy needed.
The most unique challenge I had when I first came out here was gathering the sheep the very first time. They could get under the panels. Like the first 100 I gathered, they came right in because the panels were flat. It was like 11 o'clock and you could get under them and see them. But then after that, about 3 o'clock, it was almost impossible.
Another challenge is losing baby sheep to predators, including eagles flying off with them. So they needed a safe place until they were big enough.
That I brought them home and let them have the babies at my house. And then I brought them back after they were a couple years old. And when I brought them home, my daughter went crazy and started naming all of them. Because she's 8 years old and she loves them. She's funny.
Tucson Electric Power is currently supplying 50% of renewable energy to more than 400,000 homes in Tucson. And their goal is to offer around 30% of clean energy to their customers in the next few years. Abandoned uranium mines have been affecting the Navajo Nation since 1994. 30 million tons of uranium ore were extracted from Navajo lands, leaving people feeling the effects of uranium contamination. Allison Snell took a trip to Cove, Arizona to find out more what they're doing now.
My dad had stomach cancer. I guess he worked in the uranium mine.
Philip Ati grew up near Cove, Arizona, a small town on the Navajo Nation. Population just over 400. The area is also home to about 30 different abandoned uranium mines. Many of the mines started operations in the 1940s and provided more than 30,000 tons of ore containing uranium, until the mines shut down 2 decades later. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, being in contact with higher levels of uranium can be harmful to your health.
You don't see the impact right now. It's 30 years down the road. And a lot of them had stories of their parents or grandparents getting cancer.
The EPA is working to fix that.
Concerns is getting the mines cleaned up.
Cleaning up the mines is more than just a one-person job. The EPA, along with the Navajo Nation and Clausen Excavating, are working to get rid of the contamination.
Determine the magnitude of contamination and rank them, which has the highest risk to human health and the environment.
The first step was building a road that provided access to the mines.
This was one of the main mining roads that took the miners up and brought the material back. And the condition of the road, it didn't have any drainage, generally couldn't get through with even Jeeps. So with this road improvement, it's allowing us to bring more teams up and to actually work on these mines more efficiently and get to cleanup sooner.
The EPA is working with the Navajo Nation and helping to provide jobs.
So our goal, as much as possible, is to engage Navajo workers to assist us with the cleanup.
Once they determine the amount of contamination, they can move to the next step.
The next phase of our process is to make a determination of how to clean it up.
This project for Navajo husband and wife team of Clausen Excavating hits close to home.
I tell people she's the brains of the operation. I'm just the guy that goes out and gets dirty.
Liz, Clausen manager, grew up in this home near the mines, and she says she can sympathize with those affected. She's worked to provide a different life for herself and those she employs.
One of the things that my mom instilled in me was education. She always encouraged us to get an education, and she knew that was the way out of poverty.
I never went to trucking school. I never went to a heavy equipment school. I learned it all on the job.
And the job is a big one, cleaning up the mess from America's nuclear race and restoring this land to the Navajo people.
I love America, and I believe it's the land of opportunity as long as you're hardworking.
As we get into the summer months here in the Valley, expect to see some more high pollution advisories. I talked to the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality about how the agency is working to let more people know what to watch out for.
Air pollution counts.
You may see those hazy skies or even the brown cloud trapped in between our mountains. Or you may notice nothing at all, but you should still be aware of what is in the air.
Everybody in the community, whether you're a sensitive to dust or smoke or ozone, or even a healthy recreating adult who may be out jogging or running, playing basketball, we just want to let those community members know what the air quality is like that day so they can take the proper precautions.
Bright color flags outside of schools and businesses can let people know what the air quality is.
For instance, red means we're over a federal health-based standard. Green means that we're in good for the air quality for the day.
Schools were already part of the program to display the air quality flags, and now it's spreading. Core Slab Business in Arizona is the first business to start implementing the air quality flag program. They're doing this to help ensure the safety of their workers.
And so communicating that hazard to them or that understanding of what they're working in helps them understand, hey, maybe I need to pay a little bit more closer attention to what my body's telling me.
Having more awareness can help people act accordingly.
To me, it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer.
The more people that participate, the more we can get the message out to the residents of Arizona.
To breathe a little easier and know what's in the air, or just to participate in the flag program, check out the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality's website. A Native American farm is doing more than producing crop. It's connecting the present with the past. And it starts with indigenous foods. Reporter Emily Richardson explains how food is such an important part of Native American culture.
According to Ramona Farms, in the 70s, the tepary bean had nearly gone extinct, and tribal elders were urging farms to start growing the beans again. Ramona found a few seeds for both the white and brown tepary beans in her childhood home and says it became clear to her that her mission was to bring back the beans and the culture to her community.
Culture is to feed our spirits and to feed our souls and to feed our community. The food should be an absolute necessary part of that, and it is.
Ramona's daughter, Velvet Button, moved away from the farm in her 20s, but ended up returning because she loves her life on the farm and sharing the history behind the food they're growing.
I am very honored to be able to share that with people because I don't really get to see the hard work and the true love of the land that my parents have and that they've been able to maintain all of these years through all the struggles.
While Ramona Farms grows alfalfa and cotton, their passion project is the tepary bean.
Now, long ago, this was a staple food here at Hill River, but along with our diminishing farming practices, we lost touch with our tepary bean. My mom and dad worked really, really hard at packaging them so that we could make it available again to not only our community, but the world community.
According to the 2012 USDA Census of Agriculture, 56% of farmers in Arizona are Native American.
Something that Native American people do, not only in Hill River, but also in other tribes. That's how we survived. You know, we did the hunting of the animals. We grew our corn and our wheat, and that's how we actually survived.
Budden believes Native communities have started to reconnect with their culture, partly because of the food sovereignty movement.
It has helped to connect us once again as Indigenous communities and helping to rebuild those foodways that we used to have. In any culture, the best way to not only share that culture, but to really know it and be a part of it is to eat it.
The USDA will be releasing a new agriculture census with an updated percentage of Native American farmers in 2019. In the broadcast center, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Arizona's state fish has been threatened for decades, and officials are fighting to keep the species alive.
Reporter Nicole Hernandez traveled to Pine Top to see how biologists are trying to save the fish.
So these little dark marks are called par marks.
Apache trout only exist in Arizona, and to keep them alive, the Arizona Game and Fish Department must remove other trout that compete with the Apache for food and often mate with them, which destroys their lineage. They do this by electrofishing.
It's a system that puts a electrical shock in the water that stuns the fish temporarily, and we can net them up quickly. They come out of it pretty quick.
They often transport the fish to other streams. But sometimes they use rotenone, a type of poison, in certain sections of a river to kill the other fish and give the Apache trout a better chance at survival.
We want to go into a stream, do it once, and then do it right, and get that Apache trout population established.
Once they clear a stream of non-native fish, they restock it with Apache trout to start a fresh population. However, poisoning fish has been controversial.
There has been some opposition, some by anglers that like fishing for rainbow trout and brown trout and are afraid that we are going to remove those everywhere that we come across them.
But their struggles don't end there. Fire and climate change also threaten the fish.
When you have a fire, you remove shade to the stream. There is sediments that go in the stream and they hurt the Apache trout.
The conservation efforts have paid off. The Apache trout is one of the few animals that has been moved from endangered to threatened under the Endangered Species Act.
It's super rare, and being able to try to help that species get back to thriving, I find it very rewarding.
In Pine Top, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
In 2016, Arizona game and fish biologists spent nearly 70 hours working in the streams to save the trout.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
There is a new and unique way for Arizonans to help the environment.
Reporter Nicole Hernandez tells us about the Cash Mob that is focusing on supporting green businesses.
Spending money can actually help the environment thanks to a green cash mob that is encouraging people to support local businesses that use sustainable practices.
Running a business is no small task.
It's always challenging in many ways, and financially is always one of them.
And helping the environment can add another layer of cost onto businesses like the Breadfruit and Rum Bar, who specialize in sustainable seafood.
Sustainability isn't limited to seafood. Sustainability is a mindset. It's this all-encompassing, beautiful, enormous umbrella of existence.
An existence that nonprofits Local First Arizona and Recycle Bank are helping businesses achieve by starting the Green Cash Mob.
The Green Cash Mob is about more than just helping the environment. It's also helping to put a spotlight on some of the best local businesses here in the Phoenix area.
So it really is a way for people to go and support their business that they like in their community by purchasing their goods and services.
Recycle Bank is encouraging community members to check in at restaurants that support sustainability to earn reward points, and checking in at businesses that are part of the Cash Mob will earn users extra points.
We are a small business, we're a local business, and it's not easy to get the word out. We've been here a decade, and we're still known as Phoenix's best kept secret.
Users that earn points through the Recycle Bank app can cash them in for discounts at participating businesses. In the broadcast center, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
Bears are making their way from the wilderness into the city. The Arizona Game and Fish Department has put down 2 bears who became public safety threats in the past week. Reporter Emily Richardson explains what's bringing them in.
According to Game and Fish, Arizona's current drought conditions are making it more difficult for bears to find natural food and water sources, driving them to visit neighborhoods.
It starts with a curious, hungry bear just looking for some food, and they find easily accessible and highly rewarding food in terms of the calorie content.
Once a bear realizes they can get food easily in urbanized areas, they begin to lose their fear of humans, causing a public safety issue.
These bears that come into neighborhoods, they get used to human-related foods. They don't have a lot of negative responses from humans, and so they start to lose their fear of humans. They don't see us as harmful, and so eventually that could lead to them approaching humans in search of food.
And that bear is no longer what I would consider a wild bear. That bear has associated humans with food and eventually will take food away from humans, or maybe decide that humans are food as well.
So what do you do if you see a bear in your neighborhood or yard? Arizona Game and Fish Department says to get someone to come remove the bear, it's as easy as calling 911. And while the bear is there, make sure pets are inside. Don't approach it, and don't do anything that would encourage the bear to stick around.
The Arizona Game and Fish Department also says to help prevent bears from coming to your neighborhood, you can keep all trash inside a secure area, take bird feeders down at night, and keep all uneaten food inside. In the Broadcast Center, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Flying over the state, new technology that can make your future flights safer. Reporter Amanda Mason was on board as this Honeywell technology went up 20,000 feet in the air.
Well, it was a unique flying experience, taking off on a large Boeing 757 with around 25 people on an aircraft that can carry more than 200 passengers. Now, the goal of the flight was to test 4 new different types of technology. Engines, avionics, Wi-Fi connection, and even the new technology upgrade, Smart Runway, Smart Landing, is being tested on this flight.
Which alerts the pilot when they're on the runway so that it eliminates any collisions or accidents, anything like that.
It's fun being at the kind of the leading edge of technology and helping create things that bring a safer and better flying to the public.
This Boeing 757 is the largest aircraft among the fleet of 5 at this testing site at Sky Harbor Airport. Experts say the best way to test their safety equipment is in the most extreme temperatures, which is why they test their flights in Arizona.
We certify an engine, we go to the hottest places we can to test, and we go up to Yellowknife, Canada to do really cold testing. We've done zero-G testing.
According to Honeywell, this is the only aircraft in the world with its 3rd engine location.
A 3rd engine actually mounted on the side of this aircraft, and that allows us to run the main engines, and we can still fly safely while we're testing a 3rd engine.
We're 20,000 feet above central Arizona, here in the cockpit where most of the testing goes on, and one of the things that they're testing, which is not only on domestic and international flights, is a 3D weather radar.
So it's scanning the sky in front of us. Every about 20 seconds, it rebuilds this 3-dimensional buffer of all that data that's out there, and then it presents it to the pilots on the screens up front.
This is co-pilot Helmut Eggeling's last flight. He's flown for 53 years and seen a drastic change in how planes operate.
Technology has changed as far as automation is concerned. The philosophy is to get everything automated to reduce the pilot's workload. And, you know, it's necessary because the sky is getting crowded. There's a lot of airplanes flying.
New high-speed Wi-Fi technology, JetWave, is slowly becoming a trend. Instead of ground-air connection, they are setting up Wi-Fi connections by satellite. Now, you can currently see some of Honeywell's tested technology on Southwest and United Airlines. The 3rd engine still has one more test before it is approved and released. In Phoenix, Amanda Mason, Cronkite News.
Could fighting the sun's heat start from the ground up? Pavement has the potential to mitigate heat. And with Phoenix continuing to expand, city leaders are experimenting with cooling off the concrete.
We're working with the EPA right now to say, are there other materials that we can add to the asphalt to be cooler? Is there a certain paint color, for example, that will allow us to allow the street to radiate less heat?
The city is also examining a pilot program happening in Southern California that could fight climate change. That pilot program has the city painting some roads off-white. The city is spending nearly $200,000 to stain the streets for heat relief. Micah Bledsoe from our LA Bureau reports that if the idea works, we could one day see a fresh paint job on our streets.
The city of Los Angeles is using an oil-based sealant on pavement, a way to reflect the sun's heat instead of absorbing it.
What we find so far when we've put the cool pavement at the different locations, that it does reduce the temperature somewhere in the 10 to 15 degree range from just the uncoated black asphalt.
Gomez says black asphalt absorbs between 80 and 90% of the sun's heat.
So we're hoping that it reduces energy as well and helps in reducing energy and greenhouse gas emissions along with reducing the temperature. So
You may be wondering, why the difference in the color of pavement? And that's because this gray cool sealant reflects heat from the sun, unlike black asphalt, which actually absorbs much of the sun's heat and increases temperatures not only here in LA, but across the country.
Although Cool Seal has positive results, it also has its drawbacks.
It's difficult to make a pavement that's reflective not just when it's new, but reflective after cars have driven on it for a while.
Levinson is urging other states like Arizona to do the same thing, starting first in smaller areas like parks.
Pedestrian spaces have been made cool by applying some sort of a light-colored coating, and those seem to hold up pretty well because we're a lot lighter and do less damage than cars.
Reporting in Los Angeles, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
SRP sent teams to Puerto Rico to help with power restoration after Hurricane Maria. Crew members shared what they learned on the island with reporter Emily Richardson.
Members of SRP say that the restoration plan in Puerto Rico was substantially larger than anything they've had to do in Arizona. However, they say the job taught them a lot.
It was mind-blowing in a lot of ways in terms of just the level of destruction that had been wrought to the system. And where do you begin?
SRP sent Rick Hudson to Puerto Rico twice to help with restoration. His first trip was in December, meaning he missed Christmas with his family.
My kids are older. They're not as young. I do have several new grandchildren. I thought it was really important in looking at them and their situation, how well they have it here, that I should probably give something back.
SRP spent 4 months helping in Puerto Rico, and they say when they left, they had restored power to 98% of their customers.
You take small steps. You start creating a plan and getting things going and recognize you're going to get help.
They also learned that everyone should have a plan for if their power is out for extended amounts of time.
Just making sure everybody is on the same page in the household and knowing, kind of planning through what would happen if the lights were out at our house for, say, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, what would be their natural reaction and what things would they do.
But they didn't just learn about restoration, they learned about compassion too.
When you restore someone to power, when they've been out for months, and to see their emotion. Initially, they're clapping and really happy, but to see their tears of joy when they recognize what that means for them. I mean, it's incredible.
SRP says they are prepared for any restoration efforts they may need to accomplish during the 2018 monsoon season. In the Broadcast Center, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
If your kids don't have plans for the summer yet, there is a camp on Catalina Island that teaches valuable life lessons. Cronkite News reporter Nia Rowan checked it out.
Here on Catalina Island, there are many things to do, but this summer camp is fun while also giving back to the environment. Swimming, kayaking, and learning more about ocean life is a great way to spend the summer at Catalina Island camps, also known as CIC. Jake Dorito is the assistant boys camp director. He also attended as a camper for 4 years. Dorito travels from Arizona to the island every summer.
It's the community.
It's the positivity around you. It's all the support.
In addition to traditional camp activities like rock climbing and swimming, campers also learn about living on an island and ocean life.
So we have naturalists back here who are passionate about the work they're doing and are super excited about it, and that's all it takes to get kids excited about something.
Amber Shetler is the Outback Director and oversees the compost garden at the camp. CIC composts on average 20,000 to 26,000 pounds of food each year.
Most of our food waste is, watermelon rinds, orange peels, napkins, things like that. Well, I just think it's a super important thing to be teaching our kids about, to have them be able to see where their waste goes and to think about what they're consuming.
Each cabin goes to the garden to compost and is able to see and taste the new food that is growing.
They get to see all the food that we have and that we compost each day, because all the kids are a part of that. And then it's taking that next step and showing them how we compost that, and then showing them the next step of when it's soil, and then when we actually get plants from that.
And of course, there's plenty of sea life to observe around the island.
Every chance I get, I love to go in the water and go snorkeling, getting to see, octopi and like all these different kinds of fish and Garibaldi. It's really cool. It's something special. Every time I go in there, I see something different.
On Catalina Island, this is Nia Royan for Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us on this special edition of Cronkite News. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.